Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to episode 114 of the Run to the Hills podcast. I keep saying this, another busy show, Eddie, but they're always busy.
It's like life. It's trying to slot in all these things. It's fun.
It's a juggle today, isn't it? Yeah, I'm busy this morning, then I'm off to the vet, and you've got your jobs to do today. But yeah, Eddie and I have a catch up. Then we have a chat with Isaac Kenyon. Now, Isaac is a world record breaking British eco adventurer. That doesn't do him justice. If you head over to his website, he's so much more than that.
It's a shame.
And Trish joins us again too, and I'm loving these catch-ups with Trish and Russell, so I'm looking forward to that. Thanks to Chia Charge for continuing to support the show. Chia Charge give 1% back to the planet, and you can recycle their packaging too. Go to their website and click the sustainability tab for more info on how to recycle your old Chia Charge packaging. I made it. I need a drink now.
I know. I started talking halfway through, and I was like, "Oh no, he always tells me off for that. He's going to tell me off." It was okay. It was sort of in the flow, wasn't it? It was in the flow, so yeah. I didn't disrupt you too much. You're looking quite James Bond-like today with that black. You sort of laid down your cheekbones and your black top, Gary.
Super cheekbones. That's a compliment.
Yeah, you're quite suave and sophisticated.
I need a box of chocolates. Milk tray.
Oh, I love that. Me with my old green, whatever this is. I've got my run to the hills buff because I've just walked the dogs and it's freezing.
It's chilly. That's why it's zipped up on the milk tray. Look, it's a bit chilly in the northeast. How are you doing?
Good. I'm a bit tired, as I just said. I do hate these podcasts that we have to sit and look at each other. Don't mind looking at you, James, but looking at myself for an hour, my eye, you know that you get that dehydrated eye puffiness.
Oh, yes.
And I've got it going on. I got it going on big, but all good. Yeah, had a big second week of half term and I don't know why I'm doing it to myself, Gary, some big old days on the hills. And they are taking their toll on the body. I did a big long run. My watch died. Is there anything worse?
Oh,
Is there anything worse?
Quite frustrating, isn't it?
It's so frustrating because I don't really care. Like, I can work out how far I went. It was more like how I wanted to do 5 hours. And I was like, I don't know how long I've done.
What's more frustrating though? Your watch dying or you stopping it by mistake?
Equally, anything to do with watch-related admin drives me mad. And so then I had a massive strop at the top of the hill, and I was like, "I'm just going home. Then doesn't matter. I don't care how long it is. That's it. I'm done." I went home, and then I spent hours trying to work out like where I'd gone and how long I'd been. And Bryn was like, "You're gonna get on with the day? You're gonna do anything? You're just gonna sit?" And I was like, "Yeah, come on." But that was good. But it was a bit. I went up high around the sort of ski fields, and Bryn was like, "I said, this is the route I'm gonna do," and he's like, "Is that not going to be really rocky because you're crossing all the really high pistes?" So I was like, "Fine, but just be." And then as I climbed up onto these pieces, I was like, "Oh, this is awful," because it's just like man-made boulders on a black piste going downhill. It's nothing. I was like, "Don't break an ankle." Oh my God. And it's not like natural rockiness tends to, especially around here, there's been enough people that people have sort of found a path and sort of made, you can almost see like man-made, like foot there. This is just a bit of a disaster. Anyway, so it took me a bit longer to traverse across that.
And it's not the same kind of pace that you want to be moving either, is it?
No, I was like, come on, this is taking forever. Yeah. But it was good. It was a good long run. And then I've also done I did 6 by 10 minute uphill moderate. So built that up a bit. During it, felt good, felt strong. Only passed one guy with a crossbow and his 2 hunting dogs. So my heart rate spiked a little bit there. I was like, I'm not a deer. I'm a human. Do not shoot me. I felt really good. And then after I'd done that, then I've even though I've still got 10 beats when I do that session extra work. I always think so it's moderate, so I could go 10 beats higher, which would be a hard. But I'm always wiped out after that. And then when you finish, but this is exactly what I need to do, is then when you finish, you've still got 40 minutes of running at the end to cool down. And that I find almost the hardest bit, because I'm like, and you can't, I'm running downhill on wobbly legs. That was good. And then I've done 2 big hikes. first one on the day after that, and I was like, why am I feeling tired? I'd sort of forgotten I did that. And then the next day I was like, feels like hard work. And within that hike, I started to put a little bit of jogging in with the backpack.
Cool.
It felt, I was like, I can't even get uphill. I'm just walking every single like slight uphill. I was able to jog a bit more downhill and a bit more on the flat. But I did have a little bit of a like, I can't do this. I had people, I can't do this. No.
Were you monitoring your effort though with your heart rate when you were
I've got my heart rate. So if it goes out of that like endurance zone, I immediately start walking. Yeah. Because then that's not realistic, is it? And I was like, this is ridiculous. Nobody can do this. This is and I met the family. They went for a little walk, and I met them sort of up the mountain to get some water. And I was so grumpy, and I felt really bad. But only just like in the midst of it, tired, and I still had like 3 hours to go, and I was like, oh.
The only thing that makes me grumpy is if I'm hungry, then I'm grumpy.
Really? Oh, many things make me grumpy, Gary. So I came home and had a bit of a paddy, and then Bryn said, and I messaged Jason going, what is this pace that I should be doing? Because I want to be running, I want to be moving, but I can't.
Yeah.
So how do you do this? Like what? And now I'm starting to move into a little bit more spine effort, we're calling it, than like sort of either just jollying, hiking around, or just running. And so he said, ask Bryn about tabbing. So I was like, oh, I don't need to ask Bryn. He talks about that sort of stuff all the time. So we, yesterday, we were lucky Bryn's mum and dad were staying for a couple of days. And so I bless Bryn. This is the ultimate love run. We got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was absolutely hooning it down. Horrible, dark, cold. And we drove to this route to another mountain where you can run round it. So it's like a undulating path.
Cool.
And he said, and he packed to pack, so he had a bit more weight than me. And we practiced going around that, and he gave me some tips, and he was very patient. He only looked back once when I couldn't keep up. The fast walking, I was like, I can't walk as fast as you because you got a bigger stride than me. And normally we'd have a divorce over that sort of thing, but he was like, okay, yeah. He's so patient, and it was so much better. And he helped me on like just the stride and the when to walk, when to run, and just reinforced like, you're really good at this, you're fine. What are you like having your paddy about? And so we did that for like 2 hours, and then he drove off and left me, and I had another 3 hours to do by myself. I was like, he's like, I'm going home for breakfast now, I'm done. I was like, oh no.
Oh, wow.
As said, that's horrible when someone leaves you and they drive past and the car's all steamy and the dogs and took the dogs, and I was like, oh, you've got to go. So I took long way over the mountain back home, but it was so much better. And by the end of it, I wasn't dying. So I did 4 hours yesterday, but I was running, and I was forgetting that I had the pack on, and I was running. Cool. I was like, oh, run up that. I run up the hill with the pack. So that's a massive, so obviously it's not fitness related at all. It's just a bit of confidence and a bit of just getting used to it over the couple of days. So I was happy with that. 19 miles, less climbing as well. And I think that's probably quite good than my normal big climbing, because that does take it out of me. And then today I set my alarm to get up at 6 to do my recovery run, and I snoozed it. I was like, no. I'm finding these long sessions really tiring, like just a recovery from them. And then the next day, like, I'm not like tired like you normally are from like a hard session. It's more like my back's a bit sore, my knees are a bit creaky. So I'm being really listening, going, Monday I didn't run, I just biked in between these long efforts. And today I'm like, should I run again? Should I just bike again? So thank God for Swift and the bike of keeping that I can still.
They're massive efforts, Eddie. I know, like you're saying, you're not redlining it like say 5 times a K.
That's the thing. So you think, oh, I shouldn't. Why am I so tired? But it's the volume and the poor weight on Eddie's. It's a lot. Anyway, it's all good. I'm feeling quite good. I'm just holding it.
You know that when Bryn drove off, you can kind of replicate that. That's what's going to be like leaving a lovely warm checkpoint, and it's all there.
I did think that, because Bryn's going to come out, like fly out maybe like with 2 days to go, like depending on where I am, and pop up hopefully with like in the last like 24 hours as a bit of morale. And I thought, oh, imagine if he does pop up, how amazing that's going to be. And then when he goes, okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. I think you're doing great things. And I love the fact that we'll talk a little bit about my weekend that fell to pieces, really. But how you're doing your big stuff during the week. And I like just how you're managing it all. It's great. Good to see.
Just about juggling the balls in the air. There is some very dirty bathrooms and some laundry to be folded and emails to be replied to. But it's only, I keep thinking it's only like 2 months, and then it'll be done, and then life will just move on, won't it?
Wow, but 2 months, my goodness,
I know. You've got to go all in for these sort of things, haven't you? You've got to go all in. And then I'll get payback in February, March, April, and Bryn can do something, or we'll just have coffees and I'll get fat. Anyway, yeah, tell me about your last few days.
Oh, wow. So the cross country was Saturday. That was a big thing. And we were up the Lambton Estate, which is absolutely really lovely. And when I was a child, Lambton Estate was a wild, really reminded me of this. It was a wildlife park, so you could go and see rhinoceros and stuff like that there. Now they're building lots of fancy houses there. But Sedgefield had their cross country. It was quite a long one. It was 6.5 miles for cross country. That is, they range between 5.8 and this I think might be the longest one, and it had about 600-700 feet of elevation. So again, for cross country, that is quite spicy for where we live. And I had a really good run. I think my body must be sandbagging me, because I get on the start line feeling rubbish, like just like not feeling up for it, thinking I'm chesty. Then start running. It's like, oh, okay, this feels okay. And before the race, it was quite good. Justin had looked at the individual Grand Prix, and I'd paid no attention to this, and he informed me that there was only 1 point between myself and Justin. So I'm thinking, right, race is on now. And as we went off, I was so busy I couldn't see him. And then as it thinned out, I just caught a glimpse of him about, say, 50 meters ahead, and I just thought, because of the Druid Bay situation, where again I was in traffic, so I couldn't basically run too fast initially. I just had to go with the flow. I thought, I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to just keep Justin in my sight, and I did that for 2 laps, and then I made my move, and I held on. I held on to the end, and what was awesome, because I don't want to sound like smug. I was working hard, but not making a move early on. I really could feel I had an extra 5 beats to go.
Love it. Yeah.
So it was great. And I just slowly, and I know just to know he must have like a distinctive heavy breathing noise, but he said, I knew when you were there, you could hear me for like about 5 minutes, so huffing and puffing on his shoulder. And I thought he's going to know I'm there. And I just felt a bit uncomfortable, like him pacing me. So I just thought, well, I've got to, now is the time to make it.
Did you go past hard?
Yeah. Well, again, I feel I'm quite weak going up the hills, but just the way it happened, I passed him going up a hill, so I couldn't really go past hard. But then any
words exchanged, any like little pat on the back?
Just, well done, Justin. That's about as much as we do. But yeah, I always try and see when you turn a corner or something, and you go out of sight for a few seconds, I always like to try and, not that I ever drop the hammer, but run faster then. So then when the person turns the corner, they think, oh, bloody hell, Gary's 50 meters ahead now. But it was awesome. So I held him off, which is good. And I was first Sedgefield Harrier home. Not the fastest, because of the handicap system. I was not the fastest. But normally, this is why I had a really good run, because always James O'Phail, I suppose, arguably our fastest runner, and David Bentley is another fast pack runner. And both of those guys would always catch me up some point on the last lap. And they never did. So I was super duper chuffed with that. And I've noticed because of everybody being promoted in different packs, my finishing is getting higher and higher and higher. So
take it, Gary, take it.
There's a chance I could get promoted again at Thornley if I have a good run, and then I'll have to spend next season in the mid-pack, which will be quite hard work. So yeah, really awesome day, but wiped me out. And then this is what I'm saying, my weekend fell apart because I knew I was going to the cinema, and I knew Sunday Lisa wanted to have a family day. We got to Newcastle, have a wander around, have some food. And I just didn't schedule in my long run during the week. So not a long run last week, and then I didn't do my 10,000 feet of elevation, even though I thought it was game on early in the week. Just terrible planning, simple as that, terrible planning. But what is good, 5 years ago, that would have destroyed me mentally. I would not have been happy about that. I would have been a miserable parent to be around in Newcastle. I want to be off running. But no, it's fine.
I have to go with Bryn at the start. Right. When the kids are at school, my time's a bit more, the 4 days I get, my time is a little bit, I can sort of juggle everything. But when they're on half term and I have to be like, so yeah. You're going to do that there, and then I'm going to do that there. And then you have to do it there. There's no, like, if you don't do it, like this morning, I was like, I'm having and I had an extra 2 hours sleep. So I think that's pretty, that's pretty good. But you have to, like, okay, if I'm not going to do it, then you have to just get over it. You can't hold because you didn't do it in your thought, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And probably
it's completely my fault.
A little bit of extra rest, actually. You work pretty hard in that cross country.
Yeah, I was surprised how tired I was, actually. I felt a bit sick when I crossed the line, which is not, I don't put that kind of effort in. But, so that was awesome. That was like, say, 40 odd minutes of hard running. And then the session for the week was the 10 minutes at kind of 10K pace, and then 5 times a K, and then 10 minutes to finish off. So two big workouts. Mileage not as high as I'd have hoped for, and elevation the same too. But like I said last week, this is like a decade of running. If I miss, I'd say now it's been a couple of weeks of not been kind of 10 out of 10 training, but it's okay.
Hey, 8 out of 10 is perfect. That's where you want to be. No one likes a high achiever. Let's talk about high achievers, race results. Yeah.
Jedburgh 3 Peaks. My wife's done this with friends and she raved about it, and I just completely forget to end. I think COVID has really knocked a lot of people who were in the habit of maybe entering lots of races, and I'm one of those people who just forget to enter races now. But it sounds like it was an awesome day, and Rory Campbell took the win, 5 hours 35 minutes, and I respect his age and won't share it with the community, but it's awesome to see people similar to my age rocking it and smashing it and winning it. And Nicola Duncan took the win for the ladies too, 5 hours 56. And now the Jedburgh 3 Peaks, it's a awesome race, and I'll try and read, this is their words, it's not my words, so hopefully I don't mess it up. But yeah, word from the management, it's a totally inclusive event, and an LGBT friendly, non-binary friendly, QIA plus friendly to everyone, really. You can enter their races as a female, male, non-binary, and if you're transgender, they're happy for you to run in the gender category that you identify with as Scottish Athletic and UK Athletic rules. Proud signatories of the Scottish LGBT Sports Charter and are fully committed to upholding all of its principles. I just think, read stuff like that. And when you see, I'm going a bit deep here, but when you see our media at the moment, it seems to be the tactic to divide and separate everybody and blame other people for all our wars. And then you read stuff like this, and it's just a breath of fresh air. I think it's awesome what they're doing there. And one of our listeners,
and we're just at 1. Trainers on, just at 1.
It was great to see probably a few of our listeners up there, but Dave Aliano reached out on our Facebook group, and he literally ran to the hills on Saturday doing the Jedburgh 3 Peaks. He starts at Jedburgh and they donate to the local food bank at registration. That is awesome. You collect your optional T-shirt. You can buy one, donate the money, or pay nothing and pick up your race number, your race briefing that involves instructions, followed by the repetition phrase of don't be a dick, e.g. do what the marshals say, don't be a dick. And then over to the start for the compulsory YMCA warm-up. That just sounds awesome. I really love the sound. I really should do it. I had friends who did it. Lisa, my wife's done it. Maybe next year I'll
put a note in your calendar. I don't think they did the YMCA YMCA warm-up at the Snowdonia Marathon. This is a road marathon, but with a ton of elevation as well. The weather was pretty horrendous, hail, horizontal rain, and some big climbs, but people still managed to run really fast. Like the field is really, really fast. If you scroll down the results, like the top 100 are all coming in like in under 3:30. It's really is a really good fast race. Daniel Kashai of Sale Harriers managed to win in 2 hours 39:51 seconds, and Caroline Brook of Steel City Striders took her victory in 3 hours 13. So maybe if you're looking at a road marathon but you like hills as well, this could be something for you next year. I think it sells out really quickly, so you have to get in there.
Sounds awesome. All the scenery, but not the trip hazards. Great.
All the scenery, not the mud.
Yeah.
This week, we catch up with Isaac Kenyon. Isaac is a world record-breaking British eco-adventurer, and he seeks to make a positive difference to the planet in search of climate solutions and has founded Climate Explorers. Go and check out his website for more information. Isaac has done so much. He definitely didn't snooze his alarm this morning, I'm sure. Isaac has swum seas, climbed mountains, rode oceans, cycled tall countries, and even cycled over the sea. We talked to him all about his adventures, his journey through sustainability, and all how he trains and his mindset. He's a really interesting guy. Here's our chat with Isaac. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Isaac. I don't think, Gary, we've ever had such an overachiever to chat to. Don't really know where to start. It's a bit embarrassing. Puts your Bob Graham to shame a bit here, Gary. Isaac is a geoscientist, passionate environmentalist, a TED talker. I watched the TED talk yesterday while I had my lunch. Holder of 3 world records. You've rode the Atlantic, you swam the Channel, you've climbed Kilimanjaro. You now are the running record for between and climbing the Welsh peaks. My goodness me, I hope you didn't do that all before breakfast. Where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I like the exercise question there. Hello, everyone. I'm based right now in St. Albans, just in a little village outside it, in the countryside, close to London. And I've got a view of fields, I guess, to run around in. And I haven't had a run yet, but I have got that planned later on today. I've got a run planned actually with a weighted vest.
Oh, excellent.
I quite like using the weighted vest, yeah, because it's quite flat around Hertfordshire, so I'm trying to make it a bit harder than just like flat runs.
I've got one, but I tend to use it more for like doing step ups and squats and stuff than actually running in it. Or hiking. You can hike in them too, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
What sort of weight are we looking at here, Isaac? Blow our mind.
Like 15 kgs, around that.
Yeah.
I quite like it, especially when you go up some hill climbs. That's where it's real fun.
You don't want to go too heavy though, do you? Sometimes it's a bit.
No, you've got to get the right balance, haven't you, between the weight and then the. Do you find you much more tired after doing a run with a weighted vest than?
Yes, yeah, and because I'm a cross-functional athlete, I focus on a lot of other sports, not just running, and it helps keep the upper body activated as well. I find the core is engaged really quite strongly.
Oh, yeah, because if it's not, you're like.
yeah. If it's not, you will just fall over onto your chin.
I'm probably familiar with a lot of your stomping grounds. I studied in St. Albans and I lived in Harpenden. Okay. So
yeah. You know, they're you can find some hills. They're not the biggest, and you end up just repeatedly going up and down them to try and get like some hill training in. So
that's 30 years ago. That's just dated me quite a lot. That is.
How many years ago is that, Gary? 30 years ago.
About 30 years, 29, 30 years. That was a lot.
I wasn't born, probably.
Yeah, could we talk a bit about, Eddie mentioned geoscientist, a bit about your day job. Your journey you mentioned like a multi-sport athlete, your journey as a endurance athlete too. I looked at your bio on your website, so I think listeners pop your kettle on. It could go on for quite a while.
Well, we could keep it short. Generic. Just go to the website, guys. And geoscience. I studied geology at University of Royal Holloway University in Surrey. And the ambition was to kind of understand a bit more about the planet, the resources. I was very interested in that space, like how we be a bit more sustainable with our energy usage, and how we get resources for energy. So now I work in the energy industry, and specifically now focused on the energy transition, the big conundrum, the big talking point right now during this like rises in energy prices and all this stuff. It's very relevant. So I work in sort of data intelligence for the energy industry, still applying some of my geoscience background, but I've actually learned quite a lot of decarbonisation, hydrogen, all that sort of stuff. And I find it really interesting to sort of translate and bring that into sort of outdoors and nature, because again, resources, the Earth, planet is quite a big thing for outdoor athletes, I would say. We use the outdoors as our playground. We love getting out in nature, and I think most of us would like to protect it. So that sort of balance of what can we do to preserve and protect the planet while still using it, and it's the same sort of relationship with how can we have energy and also preserve and protect the planet. So I do that as a day job, and then my hobbies are outdoor adventures and things like that. So it's very much the same sort of story, but it just in different ways. And I love doing lots of different adventures of such. I like traversing with human power. So something like, running, cycling, swimming, rowing. So I've done lots of different things, like rowing across an ocean. That was quite good. It was all manpower, sustainable boat, if you call it that. We took all our rubbish with us. We had renewable energy powers on the boat. So that sort of thing is massive interest to me. And I'm interested in any listeners who've got ideas like this. I love all of these discussions.
I love all that discussion, and I feel very guilty. It's a bit of a load, and everyone probably recognizes. I feel guilty day to day that I'm like, what can I do more? What can I do more? I feel like I can recycle, I can do this, but I think also it's just like we are just becoming more and more aware, which is always the first step, isn't it? And as you said, as athletes, the outside is where we want to be. And I was just on a run today, and I live up in the Alps, and I live up at the end of a no-through road, and at the bottom of the road, they're building more and more chalets. It's a ski resort, and there's 5 brand new chalets, of which nobody lives in. I've never seen anyone living in them. People come for like a week a year, and they're building 2 more. And I'm like, when does this end? When does somebody go, hang on a second, we don't need this. One, there's not going to be snow now in 10 years' time here. And you just carry on building. Like, we need more people like you, Isaac. So I thought it was very fitting that I was talking to you later, that are shouting and educating us, and are coming from an educated standpoint as well about this, and so that we can sort of educate ourselves. And I always think that's really good. Awareness and then education is the key to everything. That's what I always say to the kids. You've done loads and loads of challenges, as I talked about in the intro, and I listened to you on a few podcasts, and you talked about how you trained for these challenges, and about not just the physical training that you've done, but the mental training that you've done as well. Can you sort of share with us perhaps any little nuggets of, I'm sort of just embarking on training for the spine in January, which is a 268-mile race on the Pennine Way. And lots of people are saying to me, it's mainly about the head and not about the legs. Don't get carried away with the physical training. Would you agree with that? These massive challenges?
I would agree with that. Coming from a background where I haven't done long distance running, and then going from just running a marathon to this sort of distance, 233 kilometers, I only trained. Lots of people say, "Oh yeah, but you're just an athlete type guy. You just rock up and do these things, right?" I don't think it's like that. I definitely don't have the build of a runner. I'm quite top heavy. And it's, I think, all in the head. I did most of my training in a mental capacity for about 3-4 months before, after deciding to do the challenge, to doing the challenge. And I would agree with you. It is a game of how do I create the mental tools to get past the difficult lows? Because a low can be physical, where your nutrition's out or something like that, or you've got an injury. I mean, if you've got an injury, that really can be a game changer, and that can end whatever you're doing. But if you don't have an injury and you have the nutrition with you, it's kind of just a head game after that, because you have the fuel to keep going. Your body is not injured to keep going. So it's really just in the head.
It's a horrible place to be when you're like, I just want to stop. You're like, I'm not injured. I've got fuel. I should just eat this and carry on. What sort of training? Did you put yourself in some situations where you were in that situation to sort of help yourself prepare for these sort of challenges?
Yes. Yeah. I really like to simulate the challenge before I go in a smaller context. So, say it's a 233-kilometer run, I might run 30 kilometers on no sleep, just so that I feel tired and understand what it's like to run in this film tiredness. Because say you're 140 kilometers into your run, you're going to start feeling very, very tired compared to, So I do, I didn't necessarily do these massive runs, but what I was doing was just creating mind calluses, trying to simulate different scenarios. I did like maybe a whole day of just uphill climbing, just how much climbing could I do in one day in a safe space. So the bottom of the hill was my car or like a way out, so I could train my body to go into these sort of big, sort of heavy quadricep burning sensation modes where your mind is like, stop putting fire on my quads. and you can just simulate that.
Yeah, you can push, can't you? You can push if you've got the safety switch there.
Yeah, you can, and I think that's quite good training for just simulating what you could be up against. So I quite like doing that. And there were some things that from these endurance challenges that I tend to get from each endurance challenge, tools that I've been exposed to from doing the endurance challenge, which I couldn't simulate of such without doing it. And there was one where I created some sort of like split personality, positive self-talk person who was like on the left side of me sort of thing, or behind me. And it was a weird thing to kind of describe, but it's not like borderline personality disorder if anyone thinks I'm having a breakdown here. But when I do the challenges, I have someone I talk to, like that inner self-talk. And I found that I could only really tap into that during the challenges I was doing. Rarely can I just sit at home and just come up with some character. It seemed so artificial. It didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like it had the practical purpose at the time. So doing a big challenge from before, like rowing the ocean, there was a mind split that I kind of worked out, and I've been able to apply that to other things too. So there are some stuff that you get just from, I guess, doing, and then there's some stuff that you can prepare through just theory. So I'm a trustee for the mental health charity called Mind, and I had a huge interest in mental health, and have been going through all the resources that they use for people who have mental health conditions or issues. And actually, a lot of it can be applied to everyone in the day-to-day. So Mind specifically, it works on the preventatives of mental health. So they rather be talking to someone who might have a bit of stress, or their mental health is deteriorating, but it's not bad, critical crisis level. So they would like talk to you if you feel like you're having a stressful day at work, or you've had a stressful week. They will give you these tools. And I find a lot of those tools have been quite useful on a theoretical sense to apply in my endurance challenges. Stuff like ecotherapy. Maybe some people have heard of that, where just immersing yourself in nature, but in a mindful sense. So whilst you're on a hard run and your legs are saying stop, you just kind of slow down and then start listening to birds, or trying to identify trees, or maybe even just stop for a sec. Don't run anymore, and just taking the surroundings, and it completely distracts the mind, the pain, and then suddenly you start honing into different senses rather than the pain senses that are creating the negative effect. And then you can go a little bit further than you thought, because you're like, oh, I really enjoy this environment. I want to see what else I can see, and how else can I pick up some different senses. So yeah, those are the sort of things that I've picked up during these challenges.
I love that. I don't think I would be that mindful in the race to stop and enjoy and appreciate the environment. But if I could be that present, I also love the mind split. We talked about Lakeland 100, And I had a lot of negative self-talk. But again, yeah, just 10 minutes of chat here. And I think, wow, yeah, I need to have a positive element on my left shoulders to kind of combat the negative on my right. That's an awesome tip, that is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I tend to do is not races of such. So a lot of the endurance challenges and things have been quite personal challenges where I'm not really pushing for set time of such. I know many of the listeners here like maybe going on trail running races or stuff like that. I do find not going for a time helps me enjoy the experience. When you do have that clock, it does take away the mindfulness element, because you're like, you break up. Oh, there's the time I'm on. Oh, the pace is not quite right. You might push a bit harder. But I have found actually my times have increased, as in got better, from not focusing on time during my challenges and training, where I've just gone out for long days and I've just listened to my body and I haven't really gone off a time. So like my pacing has worked off how I feel, and my marathon time has improved from doing that. I don't know what that's like on super elite levels, Olympic level, but
Kenyans discover new training, just going out running.
3 Peaks Challenge. I'm correct in thinking you are the first to have completed that challenge.
I think, from running it, I haven't seen anyone else do it before and run from mountain to mountain.
Yeah, what drew you to this challenge? You've done many challenges, indoor, rowing, rowed the Atlantic, then why the 3 Peaks?
Well, I've got a bit of an affinity for Wales. I've been to Wales a few times for different types of things, like maybe wild camping, or just I've done the Snowdonia National Park, like walks and hikes and stuff. And then there was one moment where I was living in South Wales, and I travelled for the first time through mid Wales, and I was completely shocked at how remote it can be. Yeah, and it blew my mind. Because I've been to Scotland before, and I thought, oh yeah, Scotland's that remote place, right? That's where it's the most remote in the UK. But no, this was on my doorstep. This was quite close to me, and it was quite remote. And not a lot of people I've spoken to have actually ventured there. Some outdoor enthusiasts I know have, but talking to them, they say, yeah, you can get lost for hours and hours and not see a single soul. So I wanted to do like maybe an experiment route to go through and explore like the remoteness of Wales. And I thought it's just a beautiful country. Yeah. And then the other reason for doing this challenge was, one, I've never ever pushed myself into a real ultra before. And I wanted to do it in, I guess, a less pressured way, just create my own route sort of thing. And also the third point was, I've never done a solo challenge before, quite like an unsupported sense where you just take your bits and pieces. I did have a film crew with me, but the whole sense of like, you're not running it with anyone. There's no team member. It was just very much I was running my own. At times I was away from people for like 6-7 hours. So that that was a challenge. Like, how can I apply all these endurance mental tools that I've built from doing team challenges or team endurance sports or other endurance things to this challenge, and will they work? And quite honestly, a couple of them didn't, but some of them were developed differently, or I changed the way I applied them in a more solo sense. So it was quite an interesting experiment for me, and that's why I took it on. And then I guess it being like the first of its kind is quite cool, because one of the other things I noticed was I've done a lot of challenges that other people have done, and I wanted to do something that no one had really done before, so that I could just create my own path and just come into this thing quite pioneer, without like, oh, someone told me that at this point it's going to get hard. Like, I just take it as it comes every minute. And I think that's quite good. There was obviously some mountains like Mount Snowdon and Pen y Fan that I'd climbed before. So I was aware of those areas, what the landscape was like, what I'm going to come into. But everything in between was actually, I would say, harder. I thought Mount Snowdon was the easiest part because it was the well-defined path. and you didn't get lost. It was quite a good path compared to some of the other places I ended up in.
You said about the solo challenge, the film crew was there. Were you mindful of the film crew there? We had a previous guest, Russell Bentley, did a Paddy Buckley round. I don't think he was, for the most part at least, aware of this crew that were following him around. Was that the same for yourself?
In a way, we would communicate quite often, because they were kind of they're a lifeline as well. I think I was always aware that they were there, but they weren't. When I say they were there, I would see them maybe 2-3 times a day. That was it for a short bit. They weren't literally running alongside me all the time. So I think what ended up is that they would go ahead, set themselves, and then I'll be there, and then we'll do some stuff, and then disappear, and I might not see them for about 4 or 5 hours. Okay. So it's still very much a very solo adventure, and then occasionally I'd just in the middle of nowhere just see them, hey, how's it going?
I love that. You'd see them actually. You'd probably be really grateful when you saw them on the horizon.
Yeah, it was quite fun. Yeah, to chat about what happened in that last section and that sort of thing.
How did you? Again, you mentioned that you are a runner. You've done marathons in the past. This obviously 220 kilometers. It's quite a big difference. How did you train for such an event?
Yeah, I guess it was kind of for me an unusual training session, because I had decided to do it quite last minute and gave myself a very short time frame to be fit for it. But I had just come off the back of doing an endurance rowing challenge, so I felt that my endurance body was ready. And physically, I don't think my legs were in that sort of running mode. I had to get lighter. I knew I had to get lighter. So I went from sort of a rowing body. I did a transformation into a running body within about 4 or 5 months, and then did the running challenge. But the fitness itself was there because of the rowing. So my cardiovascular was there. Everything was there. It was just about engaging the muscles differently. So I just did a lot of hill climbing, and do you know what? I found that during this training sessions, that the quickest way for me to develop my fitness for running was hill climbing, running up hills, things like this, and also learning about different types of equipment and things. So some people don't like using poles, but I absolutely loved using the poles.
Like the poles.
Yeah, do you as well?
Only recently, but yeah, I'm a big convert.
Yeah, I really like using the poles, just so that it engages slightly different muscle groups, so that you can preserve your legs. And that was a big learning during the training, was using poles during my training sessions. I realized I was covering more ground, felt stronger, and I was a bit more efficient with where I applied my energy. And that was a big learner. So it was, I think, during the training on the lead up to this, there was a lot of smart efficiencies that I was focusing on that could try and speed up the time frame, because I only gave myself 4 or 5 months to get prepared for it, which is quite soon for a lot of it. And I was doing a ton of hill climbing, just the hiking, just loads of hiking as well, because that's quite good training, lowish impact, so you don't ruin your knees as much as running every weekend. But it's also, you're training yourself up and down, you've got your cardiovascular, that sort of thing going. So yeah, those sort of things I was doing.
How did your quads hold up? I'm terrified. I'm worried already for this time next year for Lakeland 100 about my quads and my groin. How did you hold up? Because you said enormous aerobic capacity with the rowing, but maybe the body not so strong.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of stretches in my training. Like, I started doing a lot more dynamic stretching, because I guess the difference between doing this and a race is that with a race, I'll stop to do stretching. No, thanks. I'm keeping this time up. whilst I was prepared to, stop, do dynamic stretches so I could preserve my legs so they could keep going for longer. So that's what I was doing whilst I was training, was learning how to do certain dynamic lunges or stretches that I could work on that would help the quads, release them a bit so they don't lock too much. I did do a couple training sessions where I didn't do that, and they, after 30-40k they were locking up, and I was like, oh, okay, we need to address this, because we're going to 200k. So I started working on strategies to do that.
See, I think it's a good idea, Eddie. Challenges without time, because then you can A, be mindful, appreciate where you're at, and B, carry out more maintenance along the way. Sometimes the event is
I'm
like
thinking
this.
of snack stops, Gary. You're like, well, if there's no time, then I could
Yeah.
find a local spa and
That could be really extreme. Quickly get a proper massage.
I bet it's quite, actually, you've gone from being super lonely, but then Snowdon, I think, is a pretty busy summit from what I've heard. I've never been there.
Yeah, it is a very busy summit. Early in the mornings is great. So I started quite early in the morning for my one. I think that if you go early in the morning, you're less likely to see people.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a lot better, because you don't want to be, in groups of people on the path blocking you if you're trying to keep your momentum, and that can be quite frustrating. Having to stop when you didn't need to stop.
Yeah.
So I try to time all the mountains as best I can to be early in the morning when people are still, eating breakfast.
And what were your biggest challenges? 220 kilometers. I've never tackled anything like that, so I can't really comprehend it. But yeah, I've read an article. I think it was a newspaper from St Albans area. Peat bogs, phone signals. Yeah, a lot can happen between when you cross the line and complete your challenge. Yeah, biggest challenges along the way.
Yeah, I would definitely say the route, as in understanding where the route was. Like I completely would lose paths and have to take bearings and things like that. Getting the compass out like that. Like just there was one point it was like, I don't see a path here. I can't see a path anywhere near here, and I would just be like, right, bearing, I'm going to go in that direction and just hope for the best. And there was a lot of that going on. Another thing that was really interesting was water. So I took a filter bottle water, kind of actually because a mate of mine said, "Oh, you probably might come across some streams. It'd be nice to drink out of them. That would be quite cool." And then I was like, actually using them for survival at time, as in, running out of water and really like, where's the next stream? Like, I just like, where's the next stream? Looking for streams, listening for streams, and that was a huge challenge, was finding streams to drink out of, because I was doing it.
You were in the middle of like the heat wave, weren't you? You're right in the middle of when it was like proper parched, no water, no streams.
Yeah, it was really dry, and it made me kind of understand and appreciate those ultra desert runners. Like, wow, like those are amazing people who are able to kind of soak in water into their body for so long. Because I was very much just dripping and like trying to find water all the time. So that was a really significant challenge. So it's like finding the route, finding where the water sources were. And then the other, I guess, part of the challenge was, I guess each day I would reset and have to go again. And I think actually it's more, I found when I did a continuous indoor rowing machine record where I did 3 days and 10 hours non-stop, that I found easier because I didn't stop. So I found actually when you do have those points where you have multi-day expeditions and you do like, 70 kilometers, you stop for that day, and the next day you're going to do 70 kilometers. I find that more mentally difficult because when your body rests, it starts getting into comfort zone and all that sort of side of things. And then you have to reactivate this sort of like hardcoreness inside to go again.
To reactivate your voice.
Yeah, reactive. Yeah, that's it. Great.
Susan. Should we call her Susan?
Susan, yeah, reactivate Susan and get going again. And I found that quite a challenge too. And that was something I tried to train for during the training bit, was do multi-day runs, but they weren't exactly 30 plus kilometers each one, but just trying to do back-to-back runs, just so I could feel that sort of reset. I did a couple even in one day, so I'd run like a half marathon, and then I'd have 4 hours off, and then run another half marathon, just to get that mindset of like, it's not over yet. Yeah. And then I even tried to do another half marathon after that half marathon, one of the training days, so 3 half marathons a day. But I didn't manage to do it in time because something else came up. I had to stop, and everyone's going like, "Oh no, he's just coming up with an excuse."
It's important, actually. Even just in regular training for any event, I think you put yourself in these uncomfortable situations, because sometimes on the day it doesn't go, it's not all like blue skies and a nice cool breeze. So you have to kind of show up and keep doing it. I love that. Like that reset. I've never experienced anything like that where I physically have to reset at the end of the day. I think that would be quite a unique challenge for that. You mentioned like the navigation. I didn't realize, yes, it was a compass and a map. Was that how you followed the whole route, or did you have a big kind of GPS too?
I had a sort of GPS for using Komoot, the route mapping app. That was quite fun to use, but at times like the signal was terrible and I downloaded the GPS map, but then there was times where you get to and there's no route. The route says it's there, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not for like hours and hours. So it could be like 2 hours. I'm just like running through peatland bog. And going around massive lakes, like lakes would just appear, and running through rivers and just all these things. I had to go through a really dense forest, and I couldn't see any of the paths. So it looks like some of the old paths disappeared, or they haven't been used much. So it made it a bit more adventurous. And then as a learning, scout out the route beforehand. I should have done that.
I was going to ask if you'd done that beforehand.
Yeah, it's just a lot of time, isn't it, to go like 220 kilometers and check every bit of the route. But I probably should have done that. But I think actually there's a bit of me that says, adventurous spirit, like who knows what's going to happen.
I already get that. You're like, that'll ruin it. I want to be in that forest questioning my life choices.
Yeah, right. Yeah, makes it more adventurous.
I love it. But sometimes, if you know what's ahead, it's quite adds to how daunting the whole challenge can be. I think if you discover it as you go. A lot of our listeners are entering big, scary events. Any tips, or, when you were at a particularly low point, is there anything that you drew on to kind of give you strength through the harder times?
Yeah, and one of the things was a self-improvement ideology of, this is scary, this is big, I'm going to get something great out of this. And I would just say that to myself, like, you're here and you're going to develop something great from this because it's really big and it scares you. So anyone who thinks they're going into something big and scary, you're going into something that could be really, really, really beneficial, and take it as a positive light that, there's going to be a journey that you're going to go on that you're not used to or you haven't done before. And then there's going to be loads of things you're going to take from it. And that for me is like, when I'm in a difficult place, I'm like, well, you wanted to be here and you wanted to learn something from this. So this is it. This is the game that you've set yourself. So let's see what we can get out of it. And then it becomes like a bit of a curiosity thing rather than like a painful thing.
Look to your future self. That's what I often say to myself. Look to your future self, Eddie. And I say that at night time when I can't bother to unpack the dishwasher before I go to bed. Look to your future self, Eddie. She will thank you for this when you wake up in the morning. And I do think when I'm doing really hard stuff and I'm questioning my reason for doing it, I'm like, think of when you go back to the school gates and you pick up the kids, you're going to be a different person. And the strength you get from like, drop the kids off one day, they don't, and I'm like, when I next see you kids 4 days later, I'll have run 100 miles, I'll have done that. I'm going to be a different person. And every time I do a big, scary challenge or something, I'm like, it does make you a different person. It makes you stronger. It makes you just able to cope with life in a different way. And it's really exciting that, especially maybe, Isaac, you're much younger than me and Gary, but as we get older, Gary's questioning why I'm doing all these massive long distance stuff now. And he's like, why are you doing it? And I'm like, I think it's just as we get older, we like want to know the limits and sort of like what's out there. I don't want to die like thinking I was too scared to do something. I want to.
Yeah, the regret thing, right?
Regret thing.
Yeah, that's a massive a motivator for people, is, will I regret this later?
You never hear people saying, oh, I regret trying to do that. I regret trying to climb Mount Everest, or I regret trying to row across the Atlantic. It's always like, people always pull the positives, even though the experience might have been pretty horrendous and humbling. What you pull out of it is always positives.
Yeah, I just think also we get one shot, literally. And you've got to make the best of it. I think, like you say, it all kind of goes back to no regrets.
I was always, this pain. The pain is temporary thing, right?
Yeah.
That's a very classic pain. That like I'm a huge testament to that. Like all of my endurance challenges, the pain I don't remember.
No.
I never remember it because it's just not interesting. Swimming with whales and
very clever. The brain is very clever. And then probably, Isaac, when you begin these endurance challenges again, you start going down that hole. You're like, oh yeah, I remember this. Oh God, settle in with Susan. Here we go.
Yeah. Let's have another day out together, Susan and I.
Any takeaways from the challenge? Things you nailed, or things you would change if you did it again, or a similar challenge again?
Definitely, nutrition was good. This time, I was really happy with the nutrition plan I took for running.
You talk a lot in your other challenge as well about how good your nutrition is. Do you think that might be a key to your success with these big endurance events? The fact that you're a good eater?
It's fuel, right?
Yeah.
Like without fuel, you don't go anywhere. Yeah. It comes back to the energy industry I work in.
Yeah, you're like, I've done the calculations, and this is
yeah, these are the calories I need. Yeah, so nutrition is super key. Having the right nutrients in the body so that your muscles can function. I think that is one of the key parts for anything. And I found this particular run, nutrition plans do change per sport. I found with rowing, my nutrition plan was very different to running, which is different to my swimming, so I was quite like experimental with my nutrition plan. I was reading a lot of blogs, I was talking to a lot of people, listening to a great podcast like this, and finding out some new facts and just taking it on the training runs. I would try a different nutrition plan each one to see what would work, eating every hour to eating every 20 minutes to eating that type of food to eating this type of food, and what worked on those sort of endurance runs I was doing. And then I had, by the time 220k came, I had the plan and I knew that it worked. So yeah, I think the nutrition was really good. Advise everyone to work on that because everyone likes different things, right, as well. Some people like Marmite, some people like tomato sauce, some people don't. It's just making sure that you're not eating Marmite because a blog told you to eat Marmite and then you don't like Marmite. Worst thing to be is like 70 kilometers up a mountain staring like your nemesis Marmite in the face. Like, this is all I've got.
I tried fig rolls once. Somebody told me fig rolls were great and they were super cheap. And literally after that's all my nutrition I had for this race. It was... oh my goodness me, the Howgills Trail Marathon. And I had one about 20 minutes in, and it was just the worst life decision I think I'd ever made. It just welded itself to the top of my mouth straight away.
You learn quick from bad food.
Couldn't shift it.
So yeah, nutrition, things that didn't go right. Well, of course, the route. At times I could have made the route a bit I guess more real. Like sometimes there was a pass that went over private land and I was in a bit of a sticky situation. I would admit that I didn't really properly plan for private land routes at times. So I would have definitely gone a bit more into detail with my route planning, so I wasn't going around farmers' fields and running for my life. I don't want to get shot. So yeah, that was one thing I learned. And then another thing that I think went really well was being able to apply some of the tools that the mental health tools that I'd learned in the sort of the training. And I think that went really well, like practicing a bit more of different types of tools like ecotherapy, mindfulness, that sort of thing. I hadn't really applied that to other things before. So that was a plus for me. I recommend people to do that. It might sound trivial, like forest bathing or all these things, but actually it can really help you if you're doing something like a 10k through a forest and you're 7k in, your legs are hurting. Have a little break, take in the nature, and then realize your legs they get lighter because you want to be there for longer because you like it.
Some great tips there.
It doesn't all need to be Strava segments all the time, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that's why I like Komoot as well. I do use Strava too, just to push myself, but Komoot I quite like because it kind of advertises or promotes the environment or the places a bit more than just the times.
Talking about the environment and times, putting them together, what's next? How are you juggling life as sort of with your work and with being an athlete? What's next on the horizon?
I'm trying to combine the two quite, I guess, haphazardly at the moment, but eventually it's going to come together. But I started a CIC company, a community interest company, with my co-founder Alex, and it's all about highlighting climate solutions, environmental projects through the medium of adventure. So we're using sort of adventurous expeditions and things like that to highlight interesting environmental or climate solution projects that need backing, funding, stakeholders, or just awareness and things like this, that they sometimes don't get the time of day because the media drowns out with climate change, 2 degrees, and horoscopes. So we're trying to like disrupt that. And I'm able to bring in sort of my knowledge in the energy transition space and my adventure together and create all these cool films and media and podcasts like this. So it's called Climate Explorers, the company. And we started it this year. We're going through the B Corp, maybe people know that, B Corporation assessment, and doing our ESG and that side of things, which is quite exciting. All very environmental in terms of the business world. And it's just a new challenge in itself. Although it's not a running challenge or something like that, I am doing something for me big and scary, setting up this business, getting employees, trying to work out income. This is again another learning, but look back on sort of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment, and that's where I'm going with it. So a lot of the adventures and challenges may tie into this company a bit more.
Yeah,
super interesting.
Positivity, highlighting the positivity rather than the negativity about.
Yeah, totally.
You're in such a unique position too, also with your career and your interest, to bring the two together. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, new career, hopefully, out of it.
You're just following your path. It's not, you don't have to follow one direction, are you? You just go like a river, tributaries, off you go. Can I ask you, this is totally off the script, Gary. Why are mountain lakes blue? Because somebody asked me this who I was leading on a trail run over the summer, and I was like, oh, it's just the lining of the lake, I think.
Close. Yeah, I mean that you could call it lining. Well, it's to do with sediments, isn't it? So the sort of erosion from the glacial limestones and things like that, it settles like a dust in the lake, but doesn't quite go to the bottom. So it stays in the water column, and then that reflects light. As the light goes in, it bounces off these little bits of silty sediments that have been eroded, and then it reflects back a blue color. So yeah.
Blue color, because we've got quite a few of those lakes around us, and people, they look like swimming pools when you look at them from the top. It's like, those swimming pools. I'm like, no. And then I read that you talked about that somewhere yesterday, and I thought, I love that. Geography in action is one of my favorite things.
Physical geography, geology, it rocks. It actually makes the running interesting.
It does.
People are like, I'm running over this rock, but I'm like, we're running over granitoid right now. I wonder how that was formed, and that must have been during this orogeny. So you start thinking really differently when you're running. But I can be quite boring for some people.
No, I'd love to go to Katie Scheid, who won the UTMB. She's a rock scientist. I'd like to go. Yeah, I'd love some more knowledge. I'd love some more knowledge of when you look at rock formations and glacial erosion. Oh, I love all that.
They do some intro to geology field trips, I know. You could go onto one of those, and then you could take it on and apply it when you do your runs.
I know. I should.
Should you do the quick five?
Quick five. We might go a bit deeper than quick five because I've still got a few little things I want to ask.
Okay. Right then. First up, swim, bike, run, or row as your only exercise for the rest of your life. Which would it be?
Swim. That was my starting sport. And I always come back to it. I can't let it go.
No, that's good. Do you find you get a lot of injuries from not doing weight-bearing sport as a youngster doing lots of swimming? Do you get a lot of lower limb injuries or?
I've never had an injury from swimming, apart from because I did something stupid. I was wearing weighted vest swimming. But Yeah.
Don't
do that at home.
Not a training tip. This is not a training tip. Not eating gas near water.
Yeah. For the faint-hearted, but yeah, so swimming has been really great, and it's been able to be like that go-to sport in between sports. That's my cross-training sport. So should I get a niggle in my leg, I'll go in the pool and wait for that niggle to kind of disappear and keep my training up. So it's a good one.
Very good. Yeah, I think you kind of answered this earlier, actually, but just in case anybody missed it, what did you find tougher, rowing the Atlantic, the indoor rowing world record, or the Three Peaks?
I would say probably the Three Peaks was my toughest. And people were like, what? Rowing the Atlantic surely is the toughest one you've done. But I would, based on the basis of it was solo. And I was in my own headspace and I didn't have a team or someone near me. And it really translates that mental health, people fighting in their own head. And I really found that the reason why it was the toughest.
Yeah, that mental space, and that's being solo. That is a tough one. During all your challenges, if you go into your backpack for a treat, is there a go-to treat that you would take with you on every one of them?
Recently, I've got a new treat. Yeah, I really like. It's baby food.
Oh no!
It's something about it where I can feel like I'm getting a meal, but not feeling so full up, and I can just it's just like. And I get the taste of like a curry, and then do you know what? I'm sick of curry. Let's have something else, the soup or something. And you can just, it's the variety, but not getting so full up and being able to move when you're like hiking or running and not feel so like heavy. But that's only been a recent fad.
It is. I hear that quite often. I do eat that quite often, baby food, but I was expecting salt and vinegar crisps or peanut M&Ms. That's the normal go-to.
Yeah. Like that's those sort of snacky ones. They're really good snacks. This one.
You need a distraction from the suck. If you to turn on your iPod, do they have iPods anymore? You don't, do they? They don't exist. But if you turned on Apple Music, Spotify, what would be the last song that you listened to?
The last song?
Yeah. Could you do that? Could you do that, Eddie?
Okay, so
the last song I listened to today. Don't want to have a look. It's something terrible.
Okay, let's have a look. I was listening to.
I'll do mine too. Let's do it all.
The Happiest Man on Earth. The Broken Back. That's what I was listening to.
Yeah, featuring Little John and Ludacris. Usher.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a pie one.
I've got Killing Time by Megadeth. There you go.
Oh, cool. We've all got very different genres. I think it sounds like
that's my teenage child's playlist that he makes for me, and he's like, "Mum, have you been listening to your playlist?" But I'd like to keep him in the kids. I'm like, yeah, love Usher.
Bring it to your runs.
Well, this is not a quick question actually, but one thing we can do as runners to help the environment and climate change.
One big tip. There's actually an organization that my friend set up, the Green Runners. You may have heard of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're friends with the Green Runners.
Join that.
Green Runners.
I'll get people to join that, because from that you get some education tips, you get ways of spreading awareness in your running. So it's a good first step to many steps. And yeah, so they're great. I have the Green Runners label on my backpack when I like my trail running bag.
And you have to make a pledge, don't you, when you join the Green Runners?
Yeah, pledge of such. So it's generally, I think, to do with racing more so, trying to be more environmentally focused in the racing side of things. Like, do you need to go to that race? Is there a sustainable way you could get to that race? And then obviously the activism within the race. Let's have more sustainable products. Let's have less waste in the race. But there's a lot more to what they do. They talk about lifestyle changes and all sorts of things too. But it's really great group to join. Did
you see Andy Simmons, GB athlete but lives in France? He's turned down his GB vest because he doesn't want to fly to Thailand because his carbon footprint's been too big already, and he doesn't believe that the World Championships should involve that much travel for him, so he's not going.
Ooh, that's a big step, isn't it?
It's not a big step. Very high profile athlete, professional athlete. So, I mean, mixed views on that, because I'm like, well, you could have a voice. You could go and have a voice. But again, it takes people to stand up for change, doesn't it? Stand up and make big changes, and make changes within your life. And I think often people get a bit overawed because they look at other people making, they think, well, I can't do that. It's about looking actually and seeing what you can do.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more athletes raising their voices and being very selfless. That M&A fighter recently, you probably heard of his mental health quote, mental health speech he gave when he won. He could have taken that whole stage to himself and fed his ego, but he decided to put it all on a cause. And that's exactly what our man has done there. I'm not going to Thailand, but all for this reason, and it's a very noble reason. And I think that those sorts of people are ones who can really install change, because they have a voice and they have a platform. Yeah,
it's super important if you have that platform and a voice to use it.
Well, thank you so much, Isaac. Every day is a school day, and you've opened Gary's eyes in all sorts of different ways. And I'm sure that's one of your big roles with all these adventure challenges as well, is to encourage other people to look at within themselves and what they can achieve and how they can achieve it. So thank you so much for giving up the time for coming on the podcast. We look forward to following your future endeavours and your new company. Give us a shout if Run to the Hills can help in any way. We're always giving shouts out to previous guests, aren't we? And they go on to other things.
Before you go, Isaac, how can people connect with you if they want?
Probably the quickest way is just go to my website, isaackenyon.com. The emails and socials, everything's all linked there.
Check it out.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Isaac. Have a good day. Enjoy your run and your weighted vest.
Thanks you. For your time. Cheers, guys.
Take care. Bye. I really enjoyed that again, Eddie, and we learned something about the colour of the lakes. I just think it'd be awesome. You go for a run with somebody who has knowledge of rocks and scenery.
Rather than just whining at each other about your tired legs and your knees and how old you are, you go on a run with Isaac and you go, now look, this rock formation is from the Paleontologic region of the Jurassic. Prehistoric. Look, a dinosaur fossil.
Yeah, I just think it'll be awesome. I really enjoyed our chat there. Hope everybody else did too.
Gary, you ready to catch up with Trish? Let's see if she's been moaning as much as I have this week.
Well, I can't wait.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Trish's Triumphs and Tribulations of Training. I'm just back from an easy run and I'm trying to be really good and get some stretching in. To be honest, I'm not very good at stretching. I've got a speed session later tonight though, so I do want to get on top of it and make sure that I'm well set up and well placed for that. Stretching is quite hard, I find, in the general chaos of everyday life. It's usually the first thing to go. Firstly, because I have to clear a space amongst the mess on my floor. And if you could see my floor, you would realise what a true endeavour that is. But I've done it today, so whoop whoop. Pat on the back for me, well done. High achiever. Secondly, I've always got that nagging feeling like I need to be getting on with something else. You know, real like loading the dishwasher, tidying up the chaos of breakfast. You know, real first world issues here. And I'm also wondering why, I'm looking at my kitchen table, why there is a branch on my kitchen table. I mean, what are my kids doing with that? I imagine what they'll probably do is make some kind of medieval spear in order to impale me with later when I'm giving them their dinner, which will probably be disgusting. You know, all fun times. So the easy run, well, what I like about the easy run on a day like today, it's just the absolute joy of just running, the joy of running in the moment. I just love it. But there's a lot more to easy runs than just a good time. You know, easy runs should make up a significant chunk of your training, and they're essential for building your foundations as a runner, as an endurance athlete. Now, I work to the 80-20 principle with my running, so 80% of my running is easy and 20% is hard. The easy runs allow me to improve my resistance to fatigue, which is again crucial for endurance running. Delivering oxygen to muscles, burning fat. I'm able to do more miles without additional stress from fast running. I could go on and on about the science of it. Simply put, easy runs are essential to allow your body to become more efficient. And that will allow you to run with less effort on your faster days. Simply put, it's good for you. It will make you a stronger runner. So we should absolutely be doing lots of easy runs. Now today I did about 45 minutes in the forest, and it was just such a beautiful day. Intense blue sky, no clouds allowed in the sky. So a little bit of an Encanto slipped out there. We don't talk about Bruno. But whilst we're talking about Encanto, let's talk pace. So what pace should our easy runs be? Well, the truth is your easy pace will vary day to day. It will, depending on how you feel, if you managed to get a good night's sleep, if you didn't, if you're feeling a bit off, if you're tired, what terrain you're on, etc., etc. Okay, your pace will vary day to day. When I'm running, I go on perceived effort. So for me, my easy run is anything from 1 to 3 out of 10. A heart rate zone, that's like a 1 to 2. A really good way to see if you're running slow enough, I'm going to bring Encanto back into it now, is to try and sing a song. Now, you can sing any Disney song, it's not, I'm not picky, but it's a Disney song, I would say, is essential to really, get involved in it. And also, that's a good incentive to run to the middle of nowhere so nobody can hear you. But if you can sing your Disney song, and you're not gasping for breath, and you're able to have a nice flow with your Disney song, you're probably running the right pace. But to summarise, your easy runs must be easy. So we know physically why we should run easy, but what about mentally? On a day like today, the air is really crisp, and it feels really fresh on my face, and there's that clear, autumn sky with the chill. And you can hear your feet crunching as they hit the trail, tap, tap, tap. It's an easy run, remember? That's why the taps are slow. There'll be tap, 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 tap when I do my speed session later, hopefully, fingers crossed, because I did it really easy this morning. And I can concentrate on my breathing, and it's slow and relaxed, and I'm just there in that moment, singing whatever Disney tune comes to mind. I look around me, and there are ponies and cows looking at me thinking, what is she on? And I'm drowning out the sounds of the birds, having the time of my life. And that's what your easy run should feel. They should feel good. They should give you that space to just be and process stuff that's going on in your life, to give you that headspace. And I actually just like the silence. I find that in the silence of open spaces, in nature, that's where I feel most connected to myself and the world around me. And it's in this silence that I'm able to just be. I don't have to rush. I don't have to be anything to anyone. My responsibilities are long gone in the distance, and it's just me, and I'm just running, and it's pure simplicity and silence and stillness. And this is often in a stark contrast to our daily life, where we're just rushing around trying to get the kids to put their socks on for school, which, if you have kids, you will know is the true endurance test, people. That has nothing on a 100-miler, let me tell you. You've got to get to work. We've got to get that project in on time, pay that bill, put the washing on. It's relentless in terms of the things we need to do in our daily life, which can be all-consuming at times. And I think the easy runs are about slowing things down. It's allowing us to recharge physically and mentally. They allow us to shake off not just the stresses and tension from the previous hard session, but they remind us why we run. To find that stillness, to find that headspace, to allow us to process all the stuff in our heads without actually having to actively think about it, to work through that thing that's keeping you up at night or is always in the background of your mind. So don't underestimate the value and importance of an easy run. It might not seem as cool as running fast or getting a Strava crown, but I can tell you it is absolutely crucial in your process, in your journey to achieving that Strava crown, to being able to run fast. An easy run is something that you can rely on to build you up and prepare you for what's to come. It sets the foundations to enable you to do the hard stuff. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned from the easy run. Maybe an easy day in life is also needed to help you prepare for the harder days, or to have one to look forward to. We all need a recharge from the fast pace of life and sometimes the intensity of our training programs. So remember, go out, have a great day, and don't forget to sing your heart out on that easy run. Up, 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 all in.
Always good to catch up with Trish. I just love it, and I hope the was it the branch on the table when she got it? I hope the meal passed the test and she didn't get assaulted by her children. That's great. Thanks for that, Trish. Thanks again to all our Patreon members keeping the train on the tracks. Join up and head over if you want to be in with a chance of winning some Chia Charge goodies. I love that, Eddie. I wasn't expecting that script change.
I know. I just popped it in there. You never know. You know me. I'm totally impulsive. You never know what I'm going to throw in. Also, over on Facebook page, we're running our competition until the beginning of December. If you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be and why? Lots of people want to live. No one said, "Oh, I love England. I'm just going to stay here." Lots of people with lots of good ways. I love people that are saying, "I've never been to this country, but I'd like to go and live there as well." Pop over there, and again, you could be in chance of winning some Chia Charge goodies as well.
Well, lots of Chia Charge goodies. Going to be winging the way out of Chia Charge Towers at the end of the month. What we got coming up, some upcoming races. I don't know anything about this one.
The Dartmoor Way 100 is in its second year. The Full Circles, the first to complete circumnavigation of Dartmoor ever to take place in an official race event. The race will follow the freshly waymarked Dartmoor Way walking route and is the only landlocked 100-mile race in the southwest of England. The route skirts the periphery of the whole of the north and southern sections of the moor. And this is the bit I thought you'd like the most, Gary. Checkpoints are village or church walls, and there are 7 checkpoints where you'd be well fed, watered, and encouraged to walk onwards by a fantastic team of volunteers. I thought that looked quite nice.
I love a village hall.
I love a village hall checkpoint. I thought that looked quite cool. £165, not too bad, not too expensive for a 100-mile.
Yeah, it sounds fine if you're well looked after, yeah.
As well as the Dartmoor 100, I also found this, which I loved, the Lakeland Pause. A Canicross race you can do with your furry friends, based out of Winlatter Forest. And they've got 2 races each month, 2 different distances. So you can do 5 miles with 1,200 feet or 3 miles with 800 feet, and you all start off at different times so that not all the dogs start together, because that would be the bit that would terrify me, is if I had to start, because I don't think Lindy would just drag me to my death. But perhaps if you're into running with your dog, that might be something you would like to get involved in. Lakeland Pause, it's called.
That sounds great. And if you fancy a challenge, March of next year, the Belvoir Challenge is open for entries. Head over to their website and check it out. 26 and a 15-mile route following footpaths, byways, tracks and minor roads through the beautiful Vale of Belvoir. And with kind permission of the Duke of Rutland, it goes through the Belvoir Estate. Both routes start and finish at Harby Village Hall, but each year they're varied in order to keep it fresh and interesting for entrants. Routes are clearly waymarked with coloured tape, and there are checkpoints approximately every 5 miles, providing free drinks and snacks. Yeah, they got some great pictures on their website. And I think at the finish, if that is correct, you are treated to a lovely feast. But I'm pretty sure that one does sell out. And that's why I thought I'd kind of bring it to your attention now, because entries are open.
Don't you say beaver? I didn't interrupt you, because I knew that if I brought beaver into the conversation, I'd start laughing. But I'm sure you say it is pronounced, the name Belvoir, meaning beautiful view in French, and pronounced today as beaver, dates back to Norman times.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I cocked all
Beaver. I keep it in there. I like it. It's ridiculous.
There you go. It's like my Gillian Gillet, isn't it?
That's how you want, Gary. Yeah.
What have you? I'm just saying what you've got coming up. Oh my goodness, Eddie.
Oh, Gary. Oh,
it's relentless, isn't it?
It's just relentless. Okay, so team, we can do this. We can do this together. I've got to get on my bike, because next week the Zwift races start again. So tonight I am riding the course, but less of an effort in a little group ride. I need to put a bit of intensity back, but I'm also just like, shall I not bother? I'll just get the back of those races and just carry on pedaling. I've got a 2-hour session to do, another big volume session, and a 5-hour run, but no pack. I don't know if I prefer to use the pack now, because I like the walking breaks. 5-hour run with no walking breaks is quite a long time. And from tomorrow, the temperatures are dropping here in the Alps. We're going to the minuses, and the snow is coming. Well, it's time, isn't it? It's time. I've had it easy, so I'll be dressed up a bit. I'm ready for it now. I've had some really sweaty. Really sweaty runs. Angela Green sent me a message about my how's my chaffing going with my pack, and I have been doing really well, chaff free so far. And she was like, any tips, because I know I will get chaffing, but the big thing is for me is to make sure that you put your chaffing lube, whatever you use, on your back, especially down the middle of your back, before you go out, before you get dressed. And then I tuck in my base layer, or my t-shirt, well, I'm wearing really tight, really sexy, into my leggings, so that it doesn't move. And then whatever goes over the top. And then if you feel any chaffing, you've got to stop, and you've got to re-lube or just sort stuff out. And that was a little tip that Bryn gave me. He said, every time you go uphill, just adjust your pack a little bit so that it keeps moving. And he gave me some little stretching stuff to do. And he also said, when I was whining about the weight, he said, for his for some of the tests he used to have to do, we had to carry between 45 and 50 kilograms.
Oh my goodness, mate.
For 40k. I was like, okay, suck it up, Eddie. Anyway, so heavy. I don't have any. I know people tape their back to stop it chaffing as well, but I haven't tried that yet. But definitely pre-lube, and then the safety vest, I call it, and I tuck it in. And what I always no, I can't share that. It's too much.
Come on, you want to?
I was going to totally overshare then, and I pulled back. No, there are some things that one must stay. Anyway, so I've still got quite a few big volume things to do this week. I just got to take it day by day. I don't even want to talk about it, Gary, to be honest, because if I think about it, I'll cry into my tailwind.
When you talk, it's like about the lube and everything. It's a totally different sport to say a road marathon, isn't it? I know we occupy training.
That when this is over, I'm actually going to be just a useless runner again, because the last time I actually did running for a long distance without stopping and eating things. I do have a question though. I get really sore top of the roof of my mouth from the incredible mixture of energy fuel I'm shoving down.
Sugar. Yeah.
What shall I do? I was like, getting. I must
don't know, actually. I've never.
I wonder what people do. You see Courtney Dauwalter with a toothbrush.
Definitely I would do that.
And I definitely think I'll either carry that or. But like after yesterday, I can feel the roof of my mouth from the gels. Are
you eating like so it's just gels? I would say if I was eating a boiled sweetener, I'd get a sort.
Yeah, isn't it?
I wouldn't.
I don't know what to do apart from brush my teeth, and I'll go to the dentist after the spine.
That'll be an expensive trip.
What about you?
Like I said earlier, I feel like I've had 2 average weeks, and I know they haven't. I'm being harsh on myself. So I'd like to maybe just feel a bit better about things come the end of the week. The workouts aren't that big this week for some reason. Well, in theory, I should be racing a half marathon if I was following the plan diligently, but obviously that's not going to happen. But the other workouts aren't too bad. But I did a workout with Neil last night. I modified mine and ran with Neil, and it was hard up hills, 3 times 6 minutes, and there wasn't 10 beats to spare.
Oh gosh, that was really hard.
Yeah, but I struggled. The last 2 were fine. I think my airways opened up a bit, but the first one I just couldn't. I couldn't with my asthma.
I always give myself the first one grace to warm up into it. It's not going to be the best.
But when there's only 3, it's like you
but you can always do 4 and just count the
Oh, God,
first
I wasn't
one.
doing 4.
Doesn't matter. There's 3. I'm sure. That's not.
I think the heart rate was fine. I was in the zone. The zone's probably 10 beats or something.
It just felt.
I was in the lower part of the zone, and watching Neil drift off the hill, I didn't feel too great about it. But yeah, the other 2 are much better. So that was that. Yeah, I think it's 5 times a K on Thursday. So but it's a smaller recovery, and hopefully, I don't think anything is going to get in the way of a long run, and maybe a bit of a weighted hike at the weekend. So yeah, that's it. I've got nothing planned. I just would like to get to Sunday evening and be more that kind of mid-70s, 80s miles, and hopefully I've done the 10,000 feet and just be able to reflect back positively. That would be good for me. Yeah, guess what, Eddie?
Shut up. Shut up.
Shut the front door.
Shut the front door.
We've got at long last, another 5-star review.
Never see that, Gary. Keep the facade up. We had loads. Trawled through. This was our favourite.
Yeah. This was the best one. Gazitude over on Apple Podcasts. And you know what? I'm not emotional. That's a bit much, but it really warmed me when I read this review. Came for the Lakeland 100 chat. Stayed for Edwina and Gary. Not sure how I haven't come across this podcast before. Massive podcast listener and got into the Lakeland 50 for the first time next year. Stumbled across the pod for the Lakeland 50 training chat and run interviews, but Edwina, Gary, and all the other content is top tier. Need to get some more Chia Charge. Gareth. Oh, my goodness, Gareth.
Don't we all? Thanks, Gareth. Oh, I'm glad our twittering keeps you entertained. In fact, when Bryn left me yesterday, he didn't actually leave me. Listeners, don't worry. That would be a terrible podcast. Gosh, Gary, how do you cope with that one? We'd just be weeping. Anyway, when he drove away, I put on my favorite podcast because, believe it or not, I don't actually like listening to ours because it's just horrendous. But I have another favorite podcast, which is twittering. And there is a couple of guys, and they just chat. But I just find it really comforting.
Yeah.
And I always hope that we do the same for anybody out running.
It takes us hours to prepare this show, as you can tell.
Preparation. But we do love talking to you, and I hope if you are listening, you're running along or in your car or waiting for the football pickup, wherever your podcast is listening, that we bring a bit of joy and a bit of laughter.
Yeah. Did Andy Stevenson, I'm sure he said it's like being in the pub with your mates, but you're not actually having to have part of the conversation.
You don't have to talk back. It's the dream. Don't think you can be in. What I love is a snooze. This is my total treat. The weekend is that when everyone else is doing stuff around you, and you just sit back in a chair and you shut your eyes, and you can hear people talking. Maybe somebody like unpacking the dishwasher, and you just have a little quiet 2-minute. Like, I love that, and it's all warm and cozy, and you don't have to get up and go for a 5-hour hike. Anyway, on that happy note, that was episode 114. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for Chia Charge for continuing to support the show. Let's make it through another week, everybody. Until next time, I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.